INSiiGHTS Sports Talk.
1, 2, talk and talk.
INSiiGHTS Sports Talk. Traveling the country for the biggest stories in collegiate sports. Bringing you the news that will impact every college athlete in America. From the Ivy League to the SWAC, Big Sky to the Big Ten, Notre Dame to Grambling U, Miami or Maine. No university is too big, no college too small. We tell it all. INSiiGHTS Sports Talk with your hosts, the coach, Mickey Clayton and Clayton Smith. They're bringing you insight on all the latest stories from all the biggest names in collegiate sports. Join us for the next 60 minutes for INSiiGHTS Sports Talk. The sports talk show of a different kind.
The mic is open. I'm your host, Mickey Clayton, the coach, and you are our guest on this edition of INSiiGHTS. Today's show is entitled, Band in Football, Friend or Foe? There is debate in many arenas over which is the attraction during the fall semester on Saturdays. Is it the band or is it the football team? Today's show is both serious and humorous, and you'll be able to feel it from both sides. Big Al and I are going to talk about some of the differences in halftime shows, the pageantries, the bands, and the halftime presentations, and how they vary sometimes from team to team, league to league, division. Clayton and I will do punch and counterpunch on what is the driving force during these fall Saturdays, the bands or the football teams. Each side has a good number of supporters. During our interview section, we have some interesting comments from two students who performed with the Marching Chiefs of FSU and Florida A&M University's Marching 100. These two students are going to share with us some interesting differences between the bands and even about the difference in the crowds. They're going to talk about the type of support they receive and give to the people in the stands and to the student athletes on the field. Then we have an interview with the band director from Southern University, Dr. Lawrence Jackson. They have been featured on ABC's Nightline, voted the best dressed band by Fashion Magazine. They played at the inauguration of 3 presidents, 4 Sugar Bowls, and 5 Super Bowls. Southern is the home of the human jukebox. They say all you have to do is drop a quarter in, and they can play anything. Dr. Jackson is a very, very, very entertaining interview, and I know you're going to enjoy hearing his enthusiasm. It comes across. The longer the interview goes, the more he warmed up. His view on other bands like the 100, Jackson State, Alcorn, all that will be interesting to hear some of the things that went on in the battles that they had. Yeah, Dr. Jackson would say. You're going to enjoy hearing about the band that lives to entertain. Last week's show was about guarantee games, play for pay, and it was very popular and elicited a lot of varied responses. Julio from Winter Haven made a comment to punch and counterpunch. He said, I'm going to have to agree with Clayton Smith. Those guarantee games have to go away. It hurts recruiting and alumni support to see those lopsided scores across the nation. The money does help the programs, but the money will never undo the bad public relations. Clayton Smith is absolutely right. These schools have to step up to raise money the right way, stop taking the easy money, and not play these games. A frequent listener, Nikki McKnight from Kansas City, she added, once again, INSiiGHTS gives us great insight into what's happening. We all need to pay attention. Former Rattler basketball player Creed Dale says, Coach, when you get beat to death like that, it's something we never get over. We lost by a zillion points to Oklahoma when I played, and my dad still jokes with me about it. He told me Oklahoma didn't break a foot in your ass, but a whole leg. Coach, what can you say to your daddy when he says that to you? Cree, knowing your daddy like I do, it's best that you don't say nothing. Isn't that the same man who told you if you didn't get your act together that you lived too close to Alabama and that he would take you on a walk? The two of you would go in the woods and only one would come back? Right, it's best you keep your mouth shut, boy, all right? Money Games caught the attention of our listeners and has made its way into one of the top 3 programs on INSiiGHTS in less than a week. You can listen to past shows at our website, www.insights.com, remember 2 I's in the middle, or on iTunes. Type in Insights, and the podcast will drop down, and you can listen to them at your leisure. Coming up next is the professor and the coach. Remember, you can hear all past shows at www.insights.com. Remember, 2 eyes in the middle. Insights, taking a break.
1, 2, talk that talk.
When it comes to being better, what's better? Being better or worse?
Better!
Okay, and what are you better at?
I'm better at telling jokes.
Okay, let's see what you got.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Queen.
Queen who?
Queen, my dishes, please.
Clean.
It's Queen to make it funny.
He doesn't get it.
It's not complicated. Better is better. And AT&T is the nation's fastest and now most reliable 4G LTE network.
Big Al, today we're going to talk about some of the pageantry that goes on at college football, a little bit in pro football, but we'll talk a little bit about the pageantry, the bands, and all the other things that go around. And, actually it varies a little bit from, I wouldn't even say school to school, but conference to conference. What's your thought on that, Al, a little bit about the pageantry around some of the games?
Well, I mean, when you think about bands in particular, which is, I think when people think about halftime shows and pregame shows, it's been mostly bands since the beginning of the 20th century. But as far as football, the college bands, of course we know the black college bands. That's a niche all its own in terms of the flavor that they bring to games. But it's been part of it because of the universities. They have music programs, and it's kind of like a break in between the action. But over the years, as we've put more show business into athletics, the bands have gotten more into the contemporary music, trying to put, different formations, that type of thing. So, I mean, they've tried to jazz it up even more. I maybe tried to keep up with the black colleges.
Well,
But
Al, you said, actually the band started with the military bands were historically the
Right.
first marching band. So, I mean, they've come a long way from how it originated with the military bands and marching in formations and a lot of the terms that they even use. I mean, they carried that straight on. So actually they kind of moved away from that and went more towards what they call the show band. And Michigan State and Purdue, University of Houston, Stanford, Florida A&M, Tennessee State, they all kind of evolved their own style a little bit from that. And I think our fans really began to revel in the entertainment part of it.
Well, true, because I think part of that revolution is television. Television has had a wide effect on everything. It's like in football, you see this spread offenses. People want to see points. And I think the same thing.
But you say television, Big Al, they don't usually show the halftime shows on TV.
Yeah, well, on some folks do, but I think entertainment has the whole aura of entertainment, the idea
But
that.
stop where, as you say that, Al, and the television part, the part that I interpret that is people look to be entertained. So
right,
while
that's
they're
what I
at
mean.
the game, where they're not watching it at home on television, they begin to look for that entertainment factor while they're sitting there at the game a little bit more. So the television component of it wasn't so much that I look to watch the band, but while I'm at the game, I look to be entertained for that 10 to 15 minutes.
Right. Well,
at
I
halftime.
mean, as these ticket prices go up and all that, people are looking for, bang for their buck. And I think, you think about pep bands, say, especially like in basketball, it brings life to keeps the flow going. And most bands, I think they do most of their work in the stands during the quarters, as far as playing music to, keep people up charged or whatever.
But
So
you remember when we had the women's basketball team in the New South Women's Conference, and we were the only one had a pep band at the girls' basketball game, and they partied the whole game. And they ended up putting a rule. We called it the 100 rule because they put a rule in that the band couldn't play. We were the only one that had a pep band.
That's correct, yeah.
And they jammed the whole time. I mean, it was a party in the stands.
Well, yeah, well, actually, it was supposed to, most pep bands at basketball are supposed to be 25, 30. Of course, the whole 100 would show up, man. and we ain't talking about 100 either, So they had the whole, top section in Gaither just about. But it added a flavor. I think Andy Landers came down with Georgia and was looking for the band. He said, well, where's the band? Where's the band? So it was, and when we go to Florida for any kind of event, especially basketball or volleyball, they always hoping we would bring the band. So,
Let's stop on Florida. Remember we played Florida. Florida then played Florida one year, and the 100 went. And after they performed, the camaraderie between the two bands was so amazing. The Florida band took them water, went over there and talked to them, and the hospitality that they showed them.
Well, you know why?
Why was that?
See, because if you go back and look at FAMU's band history, FAMU Marching 100 used to perform at the Gator Growl, which is like that's like the homecoming pep rally the Friday night before the game. They were a regular staple of the Gator Growl at University of Florida for years. I mean, this might be going back into the maybe late 60s, early 70s. They always were guests down there. So they have a relationship. I mean, the fans have an affinity for the FAMU band that goes way beyond athletics. That's why, they were, I guess you could say they were so beloved. I mean, even I think one year they actually had a volleyball tournament, and the volleyball coach, who can't stand the FAMU volleyball, asked that our band show up for the tournament. See, because that was the year we played FAMU played in football. So they were playing volleyball at the same time. So they said, is it possible the band could show up for a volleyball match that morning, then go over to the stadium for the game that night, just to get some crowd in there. So,
you have Stanford band. They're kind of famous, infamous.
Right.
And we always remember one of the football plays when they thought the game was over and they had to run through the Stanford band who had came on the field to score that touchdown.
Right.
And Stanford's band was always known for theatrical, for theatrics. They were theatrical antics. Thanks, Clayton. And they were. He's over there whispering it to me on the sideline, and I couldn't read his lips, but I got it. And I appreciate that because I was lost then. I got to get a big sign he can put it up to help me out when I get tongue-tied, right? But, I mean, their antics are legendary. Stanford band they liable to do anything.
Well, the thing about bands, they work just as hard as the football teams preparing for 15 minutes, 8 minutes, whatever it is. So they, you
took a hard right then. You act like Clayton then. We were talking about Stanford band. You
no,
kind of
no.
took a hard
I said,
right.
but all bands are like that. I mean,
they're not all like Stanford band. Stanford band kind of legendary with the stuff that they do. Mm-hmm. You can go on YouTube and find a zillion things that Stanford band, and I mean, they just try to think of creative and unique things to do. They've been in trouble with the administration. They've been suspended. And the next game they come out, they liable to do anything. It's almost like commencement that you have at some high schools, and how the high school class thinks of something they'll piss off the administration, and they might all stand up at the same time and lift up their gowns or something, or start chanting something when the principal go up. Stanford band liable to do anything, and they just kind of, and they take pride in it. I mean, that is something that they're a little special doing. So, I mean, it's just always kind of interesting, the bands to go out. I mean, the pageantry, sometimes the bands themselves, people think are more important than the game. And that has always been a battle. Which one is more important, the football team or the band?
And I think that's what I was trying to say is that they put work into their performances too. So they tend to feel like they're important. So when they get that little moment in the sun, whatever it's 15 minutes, pregame, halftime, postgame, they're going to show out. I mean, they're going to show out, and what that has done, and every band is different, every band is unique, but what that's done is it makes, like you said, has created an aura now that with some people, if the band's not there, they're not even coming for the football game, or they're going to leave at halftime. So it's taken on a life of its own.
Well, what else do they do, Alvin, in terms of the pageantry around the game, besides just the bands? I mean, some people try to bring DJs. They try to bring, and with the advent of the jumbotrons, that they use the jumbotrons to try to get people involved for that entertainment factor that you alluded to early, that to entertain the fans. At Oklahoma, they got 3 disc jockeys before the game playing 3 different kinds of music. And when they open the gates an hour and a half before game time, the students run in to get the student section. So it varies because it's more than just a band in some places.
Well, I think what has happened is that as your marketing folks, as the marketing people really start analyzing how do we get people excited about the game day experience, how do we get them to come back to games? Because television is pulling a lot of people away. I mean, from, if you got 40 games on TV, why go to the stadium? So they're trying to create that, emphasizing entertainment value beyond just the band and beyond just the football team. So people want to hear different things, the jumbotron, giveaways. You have the tailgating deal. I mean, people are just being creative about how do we attract and hold fans.
And the tailgating has grown into a whole different issue. Some people, when the game starts, they close down tailgating. That they can no longer tailgate past kickoff. And they have to come back when the game is over to be able to resume that. But this is going to be our topic that Clayton and I are going to have after we have this break. We're going to come back and talk about band or the football team. Which one is more important and why? INSiiGHTS, taking a break. 2 I's in the middle is how you spell it. INSiiGHTS. INSiiGHTS, Facebook and Twitter. Join us.
1, 2, talk that talk.
Uh-oh. Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Julie, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike? Leslie, guess what today is?
It's hump day.
Woo-woo!
Ronnie, how happy are folks who save hundreds of dollars switching to Geico? I'd say happier than a camel on Wednesday.
Hump day!
Get happy.
Yeah!
Get Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Hey there, this is Gilda Cobb Hunter, Orangeburg, South Carolina, and I listen to INSiiGHTS. I encourage you to lock it in and listen every Friday evening. Check out Mickey Clayton on INSiiGHTS.
Punch, 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 and counter punch. We ought to get it to the cadence of the beat. Clayton, how you doing today?
What's going on, Mickey? How you doing?
Oh, man, we doing pretty good. Big Al and I talked a little bit about the bands and the pageantry and all of that. What's your thought on that, Clayton?
Well, you guys have a very good exchange about that. I want to first establish I am not necessarily anti-band, but I believe the bands at a lot of schools have...
Wait a minute. You going to come out the gate and say, I'm going to throw a punch, but I really ain't meaning to punch. So I'm going to throw it, but I don't want to throw it.
No, I just want you to see it coming.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm going to see this one. Let me know where you're coming from then.
But I do believe at a lot of schools, we're talking about college bands and college football, that the bands have become more of an emphasis than the actual football game itself. I understand about the pageantry and the game day atmosphere, but I'm talking about the in-game experience should be about the football team and surrounding the football team and not necessarily the band.
And you think that everybody who comes to the game is there to see the band?
No, I don't believe everybody's there to see the band, but I believe that you have a lot of people who base whether they're coming to a football game on whether the band is going to be there or another team's band is going to be there or not, and not really based on the competition on the field.
So you say that the football team is most important?
I believe the football team is ultimately most important.
So when your football team is sorry and you ain't winning no games, how you going to get people to come to the game?
Hey, your band might be sorry.
Well, that's pretty good there. The band might be, but they coming to see the band. Now, there's games I've been to, you don't even remember who won the game, but you remember what the band did.
But it's a football game.
Okay, if it was a football game, then they wouldn't have the band.
Why?
Because you said it's a football game.
Right, it's a football game.
But people come, a lot of people come for the band. If you ever wonder about that, wait till halftime at a lot of these games, and soon, who plays at halftime? The football team or the band?
The band plays at halftime.
Right.
Which is what it is, halftime.
Let's follow the trail now. Let's pick up the crumbs as we go. And when halftime is over, you got a lot of people that do what, Clayton?
Leave.
Okay. But if they're there to see the football team, they wouldn't be leaving. They wouldn't be leaving. And you got to, and to be fair, you know, you got them after halftime. You can't get them back to the stadium. They're under the stadium steps. They socializing. If you go to some of the classic games that we have that your schools went to and mine went to, they don't leave at halftime. They go get something to eat and drink second quarter, and they go to third quarter. But halftime, they butt in the seats to see the band. And when the doggone halftime show is over, they done.
Okay, I'm Perry Mason. You understand. Mickey Clayton, what type of an event is it?
It's a football game.
Okay, you may step down.
And you just said everybody leave after halftime. It's a football game. They still
It's still a football. It's still a football game.
But they came to see who?
And they came to see the football game.
And it has grown so much now that they even had to battle other bands because they found out what? It's a money maker. When I was growing up, I remember one of my most memorable moments of a Bethune-Cookman and Florida A&M game was the band. I don't know who won the game, but I remember back-to-back, 2 years I went. 1 year, Cookman's band came out and the drum majors rolled out in tricycles. And I was like, what are they doing? But it was just the pageantry around it stunned me. So the next year when A&M came, the drum majors came out in limousines. And they came out and the band was in formation. The limousines pulled out. I don't know who won the game. I don't know what the score of the game was. But all I remember was the pageantry around the halftime show.
I never said that the band did not. Listen.
One,
I listen to you.
2.
Oh, you already out.
3, 4, 5, 6. Don't tell your corner to throw the towel in. Let them keep counting you out. 7, 8. The winner. I won't say undisputed champ because he has hit me a few times. He just ain't doing it.
You got knocked out today.
Oh, poor Clayton.
That count was a dream.
Where's that man over there who needs to check his eyeglasses? You got some problems. Ladies and gentlemen, the reality of it is you need the football team and the band to work together to be able to entertain people and to get them to come out and support your institution. You need to be there to support the football team and your band members who practice sometimes harder than the football team. But you need to be there to support your school and their institution during a time when they need every dollar they can get. You agree with that, Clayton?
No, I agree with that.
All right. That ends punch and counterpunch, and the bell is ringing.
I'm waking up to ash and dust. I wipe my brow and I sweat my rust. I'm breathing in the chemicals. I'm waking up. I feel it in my bones.
Hello? What up, Dre? Hold up, I gotta finish something. Talk to me.
How y'all doing?
Good.
We're talking about bands and halftime pageantry, and I wanted to discuss a little bit of the differences between marching in the band at HBCU institution and at a majority institution.
Okay.
I want each one of you, we'll start the young lady, to tell your name and what band you were in, and just a little bit about yourself and how long you've been playing in the band. So we'll start with you, Tamia.
Hi,
I'm Tamia Henson. I was in Florida State Marching Chiefs. I was in color guard. I'm currently graduated, and I'm just working.
Okay.
I am Isaac Carter. I'm a graduating music industry student from Tampa, Florida. I'm in the Marching 100, and I play bass drum.
Okay, and the Marching 100 is from what institution?
I'm sorry, Florida A&M University.
To me, I'm going to ask you the first question, then I'm going to come back and ask Isaac. What are some of the advantages to participating in the band? What is it that you liked about being in the Marching Chiefs?
What I like about being in Marching Chiefs was, first of all, I love doing color guard, and I love the relationship as far as building with the people in the band, as well as in color guard as well. Marching Chiefs was very organized. It's like a class. They take attendance, and you have to be there. And I enjoyed being there.
Okay, Isaac, I'm asking you the same question.
Well, the marching band at FAMU actually is a class, and it is it's similar in ways of attendance and being on time. And it's always imperative that every person comes, because what happens is, with the type of drills that we do at FAMU, if one person is missing, it sets the entire drill off, and we have to reset it again. But I love it. I enjoy the high energy of the band.
Okay. How long had you been in a band, or were you in a band in high school? Or?
Yeah, so I started the marching band when I was in 6th grade. So I marched all through middle school, because my middle school had a small marching band. And in high school, I marched at a core-style school for 2 years, and then I marched at a traditional-style school for 2 years before I came to FAMU.
What are the differences in the two styles?
Well, traditional style is usually high knee lifts, whether you're doing sweep 45s, and that's bringing your foot just the heel of your foot just barely below your knee for sweep 45s, and a 90-degree angle is, of course, a 90-degree, making sure that your thigh is horizontal to the ground. And then a core style is very sought after military marching style, which means that you're going to roll step across the field, and the front of your body, your upper body, and your torso never leaves the it never is not facing the stands. So when you twist your hips if you have to go sideways, and whereas in a traditional style, we turn and your body is always facing the way that you're marching.
Okay, which style is more prevalent at HBCU institutions?
Traditional style.
Okay. Tamia.
Yes.
Was there one style or the other that was favored by the Marching Chiefs?
Rolling your feet was very, very used a lot. With the Marching Chiefs, we also had our own high step that we did use for like special effects that you could see from within the stands. But we did a lot of roll stepping.
Okay. Well, from your observation, what's the major difference between a band like Florida A&M or from the MEAC or SWAC and bands from majority institutions like Florida State, Florida, Georgia?
Well, I just think the atmosphere at a football game is totally different than it is at a HBCU. Florida State, the fans are there from the beginning to the end. They have high energy. They're always standing up. They interact with the band, which makes us feel happy because, and they stay and watch us. Just to have that kind of interaction with the people in the stands when we're on the field, and you can feel the high energy, which is always amazing. Sitting in the stadium at Florida State, I just will always say, I can't believe I'm here. And this, like I said, it's an awesome experience. If you haven't been to a Florida State game, you should go to one.
Okay, and compare that to a MEAC or SWAC school?
When I go to like a FAMU game, I just think the energy is not as high level. You might get a couple people stand up, and clap and dance, but it's not consistent. And then as well as after halftime, a lot of times, people leave after the band anyway, but, the band is there from the beginning to the end as well. So if you're supporting the band, you should be there from the beginning to the end as well.
Okay, thank you for being so honest. Isaac, what would you like to add or comment on relative to that?
Well, I definitely agree with Tamia when she says that, if you're in full support of the band, that you should stay, from the beginning all the way to the end, especially if you're in support of HBCU bands, because we do something what's called a fifth quarter. And in the fifth quarter, the two HBCU bands are playing tunes back and forth with each other. And some people will say we call it running a book. So we'll say, okay, that band, they have a few songs they're going to play, and then we're going to play. And they'll play some more, and we'll play. And sometimes this goes for another 30 minutes to an hour after the game has already ended. And we get the real diehard band fans that are stay out there and they videotape and they watch and everything. But I would also like to add that I do believe that there's a different type of energy at an HBCU versus a larger school like Florida State. At Florida State, my experience with that is that the fans are a lot more into the sport and the action of what's going on with the football game. And I respect that a lot, and I think that other schools should sometimes follow that. The issue that I see at my university is, it's great that they support the band so much, but leaving after halftime, it doesn't say a lot about supporting your team, your football team, whether they're winning or losing. So I would definitely like to see more of our fans at HBCUs being even more support of the athletics and the football team as much as they are the band.
And I'm glad you said that, because that was going to be my next comment to each one of you. Was both of you answered the question, which was about the band, but the significance or the support for the athletic teams is very important too. So, what is your thought in terms of the band supporting the teams and getting people riled up and supportive of the team and pushing them on? Where do you see that role that exists between each one of you with your respective bands?
Well, I think it's really important. We used to love at the end of the games when the football team will come up to the band and we'll play a song for them, and they're appreciative that we're there for them, cheering them on. Even if they're winning or if they're losing, they know that we're there for them, we're supporting them. Regardless if the fans did leave, the band is still always there for them, and they really appreciate that, and that always makes us smile and happy, and we're saying we're here, doing what we do. We also long hours like they do, and so it's like we're all together as one team working together trying to, just please our fans.
And I also agree with that and in support of what she's saying. Here with our university at FAMU, we tend to see a lot of people that say, hey, well, it's all about the band, it's all about the band. And a lot of us band members understand that it's really more so all about the football team and the entire experience, because we're here to entertain. Our primary focus as a marching band at a football game is to entertain. And part of that entertaining is keeping a high energy level of the fans so they can encourage the football team. So, therefore, we do a lot of effects and play certain songs that the football team specifically ask for or request that we do, because it gives them a sense of empowerment and it helps them get through their game if they're having a rough time.
1, 2, talk that talk.
You think you colder than me? Turn on the radio. Me. Turn on the TV. Me. Turn on the movies. Me. So what you got?
Coors Light?
Don't mean nothing.
Ice Cube is cold, but Coors Light is super cold.
Oh, it's on now.
Frost brewed Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer.
I'm Lynn Thompson. As a college athletic director, I need to know what the fans are thinking. So I got to find resources that provide me up-to-date information. That's why I listen to INSiiGHTS with Mickey Clayton. He gives it to you from various viewpoints, unfiltered.
Well, Dr. Jackson.
Yes.
Doc, I'm Mickey Clayton. We have an online talk radio show on sports. We wanted to talk about the pageantry around the game and the bands and everything else, and see my background. See, Alvin Hollins, who's a Southern grad, he's part of my team on INSiiGHTS. And one of the things we wanted to do was to interview you about the human jukebox. And what really, when you're in Black College, you see a lot of bands. But we were at the Atlanta Classic last year, and I really kind of kicked myself because I had meant to write you a letter because of the tribute that you did last year that just really kind of touched all of us from FAMU. But when I thought about a band that I wanted to interview, that kind of came back to my mind and said I wanted to call and talk to you about the human jukebox.
Well, I am available, and we are all in this together. I have a great respect and to a very high degree of the Florida A&M Rattlers and other bands in HBCU who are just doing a great job. And I'm very close to Dr. Julian White, as well as I was an extreme admirer of the legendary Dr. Foster, because when I was a novice band director in high school, I was going to Orlando, Florida, and the legendary Dr. William P. Foster stopped what he was doing when I stopped in Tallahassee and was on the campus of Florida and gave me a tour. Me and my little young family, I was in my 20s, gave me a tour of the Florida A&M music and band department, and I thought that was just unbelievable. I've never forgotten about that tour.
So that kind of goes along with one of the things I was going to ask you, and that was, people had this perception about bands and everything, but it's really like a family among the band directors and the way the bands conduct business with and against each other.
We are very close. We are a close-knit fraternity, and we out to battle. But see, what they don't know is we putting on a show, and the rule to an HBCU band is that you're trying to rule number one is to captivate the audience. The beef is not between the bands, although the fans don't know we don't have a beef against each other. The key is putting on a show, and it is a win-win situation. If I want to put on a good show and my opposing band want to do the same thing, who wins? The fans win. And we don't have a problem of our fans saying that their band was the best that day, and I don't think the band director has a problem our fans saying we out best the opponent band, because we all in it together, and that's putting on a show. It's a kinship, it's a friendship, it's a relationship, and of course it's a fellowship among true believers of what we stand for.
Okay. That's good. I'm sure our listeners will be glad to hear that. And I wanted to ask you along those lines, too, is there a band, and I know I don't want you to feel like you're really kind of singling anybody out, but is there a band that you have a bigger rivalry with than perhaps some of the others, or do your rivalries kind of follow along the institutional rivalries? Do you have a rivalry that your band is like, we got to be ready for them?
We always ready for every band. Because of our mentality. In other words, we want to give a show. We want to put on a great show of marching, playing, and execution of our musical thought. There is not a time when I say we got to be ready for these one or two or three bands. We always prepare to put on a good show. But there are three bands that stand in my mind that is very prevalent that we always, three, maybe four. One of the bands is Jackson State, the sonic boom of the South, from Jackson, Mississippi, Florida A&M, Rattlers from Tallahassee, and Grambling State University in Grambling, Louisiana. That's just three that we usually face on a regular basis. Now, you got other bands who are outstanding. I can't leave any band
right.
out. You got Alabama State. You got people like Tennessee State, South Carolina, Norfolk. You got, don't mean they can't count on Bethune-Cookman and Alcorn and all these other bands. And I don't like to name bands because, you leave some outstanding bands out. But you could pick them in everything when, from the largest to the small. Everybody get hyped when they see another HBCU band across the field. But you got heated rivalries in the conference or in our conference of SWAC. It's just like a battle going on between Southern University Human Jukebox and Jackson State Sonic Boom in the South. And the Grambling State Tigers, we have that same rivalry. I mean, it just heated. It's all drama break out in the SWAC. And you can't count out the Alabama States and even Alcorn is up and coming again, So and all of SWAC bands, we get up for all of them, and all of them get up for us. And the MEAC, it's the same way. It's a different flair, though. I have high respect for all the bands. Florida A&M, I would consider Florida A&M a band that is very respectable. It is a respectable band. In other words, they appreciate other bands performing. The staff of Dr. White, who's now retired, him and his entire former staff are very respectable people. They respect any band that they march up against. They have kind words to say. I've never heard anything negative that Dr. White and his staff said about Human Jukebox or any other band. They're a classy group of individuals, music educators that I admire tremendously. I mean, it's not nothing heated where we have something personal against. It's not that, but it's competitive. You got high competitiveness among the HBCU bands. Everybody want to look good. Everybody want to be at the top of the ladder.
That's true.
And so we just see another band, and it's just nothing motivate us than another band on the other side of the field, whether it's HBCU band or any other band. You see another band on the other side of the field, that's just motivation within itself. But there are heated rivals now. Yeah. We have a wartime experience going against the Sonic Boom of the South. That's all you got to say. That these kids, they get amped up. Now, they do get amped up for certain bands.
Right.
I can say that. Yeah, they do get amped up for certain bands. But our goal is making sure that we execute every show. Every show. You never know who's looking at you. And the legendary Dr. Gray used to always say, you know who's in the audience.
Right.
You know who's in the audience that could help your program. So you have to have your A game every performance. It's no business like show business. I'm excited. I love performing.
Well, tell me this, Doc. You and I think not all of our listeners have the HBCU experience. But when we talk about the band competition, what I need you to elaborate on is that it starts before halftime. It starts in pregame. Tell people how this goes, because they don't always know.
First of all, in HBCU schools, the athletic program needs the band program, and the band program needs the athletic program. We need each other. And it's no experience that you can experience like coming to an HBCU football game, because we take it another level. First of all, we have the zero quarter. There's a thing called a zero quarter where we battle before the game starts.
Mm-hmm.
We just cranking. We just playing selections that gonna get our fans amped up, and we try to. It's like a chess game. it's like a heavyweight boxing match. You punch and counter punch. You got about 60 selections that you could choose from, and really, technically, by the end of the year, you ought to have about 85, 90 selections that your band should be able to rip off like that.
Wait a minute. You said 85 to 90?
Selections, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, for memory. We talking about for memory. These kids, that's from standard marches to hip-hop, R&B, rap song, old school, Marvin Gaye, Frankie Beverly and Mays, Earth, Wind and Fire, and then all of the guys who are the rappers now. Oh yeah, you got to come with it. and we when we get off the bus, it's wartime. I'm sorry. When we step off the bus and you march in that stadium, marching in a stadium is a pageantry. It's a pageantry. Everybody watching, see how if your lines are straight, we come in blowing. So when you get in the stands and you warm up, it's crank time now. You putting on the show before the game starts. You're putting on the show during the game because between plays and they call timeout. Either your opponent is playing or we're playing, and somebody score a touchdown. That's why your team have to score touchdown because you can't really play when another school score a touchdown unless they play and they have time before the kickoff for you to play again. So it's always good for your team to have a great offense so you can get a chance to play. The more your team score, the more chances you have of playing. And then we have this thing, we have the halftime show. And then everybody waiting, and they give you scores. They go online, and your fans will say who outdid what band. And then you have fifth quarter, where you play anywhere from 5 to 10 more selections, each band. Sometimes we'll play until the lights are out. They cut our lights off in the stadium, and we still play. Yeah.
They say the lights off and y'all still playing a Doc.
One year we were at Alcorn, and I was a student, and that was in the 70s, and they cut the lights off on us in Alcorn. Cut the lights off on us. I remember Alcorn under the legendary Dr. Samuel Griffin, who's a really good friend of mine. He's since then retired. I'm thinking last year he retired. They ran out of music, and they went back to the band room and got some more music to just sight read so they wouldn't leave before the visiting band. Well, it get crazy. I remember they locked the gate on us in Jackson State. They cut the lights off. They put the sprinklers on the field, and we were still playing, and none of the bands could get out because they had locked the gates. Had to call somebody to come get the gates unlocked to let the bands out. It's serious business. Yeah.
Doctor, yeah. Well, Doc, tell me this. What have you seen another band do in all your years, and it might be more than one, that you saw another band do that? When they did it, you were like, wow, that was all right.
Well, let me see. I got to think about that because you got a lot of bands do a lot of good things. Just one thing I have to think about because
see, Doc, it's more than the music. I remember one time I was at an A&M Cookman game when I was a little boy. The drum majors came in limos.
Oh, I got you. I think one time I saw North Carolina A&T drum majors was in helicopters.
Oh, no, not helicopters.
They were in helicopters, man. Came out, and I was watching it when BET used to show the HBCU football games. Right. And I'm thinking I was North Carolina A&T, and I just shook my head. I said, man, this is pageantry. This is showmanship out of this world. We've done a few things with the smoke bombs and different things of that nature, but drum majors usually do some things that is unbelievable, like having smoke come out of their batons, and I a lot of different things. The big girls coming out and performing, and the big guys and the European Americans band students in the HBCU band dancing and all. So these are things that you just shake your head.
1, 2, talk that talk.
Blow up last season. Every win. Every loss. Every headline. Blow it all up. Because all that matters is what you do next.
It's time for your meeting with the coach in the coach's office.
Talk that talk.
Yeah. You've been summoned to the coach's office. When we do these shows, we never know how they're going to turn out. They just start and take a life of their own. Dr. Jackson is so entertaining, he inspired us to do a Legends series in the future with just the band directors. They are so entertaining, they kind of remind you of old football coaches, old school football coaches who have so many funny, witty, and entertaining stories to tell and to share. We will do a Legends series on our band directors and let that show just roll like drumline. It was so good to hear the mutual respect that these directors have for each other. It's also good to hear that Dr. Jackson realizes how important the football team is to the band and the band to the football team. I liked how he said you have to have a football team that scores a lot of touchdowns so the band can play more. That's true, but the way I see it, the more touchdowns, the more your chances of winning. I'm just saying. The students brought home a good point, too, that a majority institutions, the fan come to energize the team. At HBCUs, we want the team to energize us. Go to the games. Support your teams. Support your bands. Cheer them. Have a great time. And motivate the student athletes and the students that are wearing the colors of your favorite institution. Both of them deserve that. Spend your time, spend your money, spend your energy, and support those teams. INSiiGHTS, turning off the mic.
Thanks to the crew. Alvin Hollins, our director and sometimes co-host. Clayton Smith, our co-host. Arnett Moore, our music producer. Julio, the voice of one, our blogger. And our producer, Gerald Tooks of G Squared Productions. Talk to you soon. INSiiGHTS.